What's going on? Welcome to Insight with Irv. What is the lesson? That is my subject for today's discussion. What is the lesson? Whenever I am going through a tough time, whenever I just got my butt kicked, I'm going through an L. We all take those lessons or we all take those losses, right? Behind closed doors in our personal life, in our business. Let's just be real. We're all taking losses, right? Not like I'm not above that. And so this is usually the framework that I try to run by. I'm going to give you 4 questions that I like to ask myself whenever I am going through a tough time or if I just literally just got my butt kicked and we are facing a loss. And this is going to be more geared toward the business side. And so I had to preface that just because it's we process things a little bit differently. So if you lose a loved one or if you're coming off of a divorce, I want to be what I'm saying. I want to be aware of that because I know that some of our viewers, you guys are coming through all walks of life. So this episode is a bit more geared toward kind of like that business frame that I have, and I wanted to lead it off with what Winston Churchill said, which is a fantastic quote. He says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste," or rather, never let a crisis go to waste, and that's from Winston Churchill. So the first question that I ask myself whenever I'm looking for the lesson and I am bouncing from a loss is, could I have handled the situation better? That is the first place that I am looking at when coming from a loss is, could I have handled the situation a little bit better? Okay, let me replay it in my mind. Who was I speaking to? How did I process the information? Okay, when the information was given to me, what was my response to it? Did I respond or did I react? Did I reject the information immediately or did I allow myself to think it through before giving an answer? What was my tonality like? Did I over deliver it? Did I look angry? Did I look upset? The reason why I always like to lead with this is because I always want full control over the situation in terms of accountability standpoint, right? Obviously, there's some things that are out of our control. There's always things that are out of our control, especially in business, especially if you are now at a point where I'm at right now, at least, where we're starting to bring on more people, and I'm discovering this rather quickly, is you have to trust people that they're going to do their job. Like, get that out of the way. You have to trust that people are going to do their job after you've trained them. And more often than not, you can expect them to screw up. And that's okay. That's part of building a business. And if you don't want to build a big business, you just want to be a solo entrepreneur or solopreneur, that's all good. But I'm referring to those of us that want to build something big. So I'm realizing that it doesn't matter how much training you give someone, expect someone to screw up and expect for you to take ownership over that loss and accountability over that loss, whether you guys lost a client or you lost a big contract or a client is pissed off about the way that they've been serviced, whatever that is, you have to take that on the chin and you have to see, okay, now that I have this information, could I have handled the situation a little bit better? Could the training have been better? Could the onboarding have been better? Could my conversation with my team have been better? Did I address that in the morning meeting the way that I should have? Is it up to par with our core values? All of that. So I'm scanning all of that. Now I'm going into my second question when I'm running through this mental framework, and that's this: am I around the right people? Now, this right here is important because you want to, especially when you're building a business or even if you have a functioning business, is you'll start to realize that there's going to be certain people that you can talk to things about that you're not going to feel judged by. And there's going to be certain people that you can truly lean on them for advice and truly lean on them with an open ear and an open heart and an open mind on what you're sharing with them. Versus sometimes if you're sharing something with someone, you're just going to get judged. And I've noticed that I'm rarely judged if I can ever say that I've been judged by someone doing more than me and someone that's levels ahead of me. If anything, they're encouraging me. Typically, whenever I'm getting judged or I'm getting hate or I'm getting, kind of like these little sideways jokes, and exactly what I'm talking about, where they try to, it's like a watered down diss. It's usually coming from people in our own circle, if we're being real, sometimes family, right? Where they're giving you like, oh, you forgot about us, or you're changing, or don't forget, we raised you, or you don't get too good for us, or we saw you grow up. Like those little comments every now and again. And really what it is, it's that those people, again, friends and family typically, is they're losing in their minds a piece or a person that they grew up to love. And because you're changing, because you're evolving, they can't identify who that new person is, which is why people try really hard to keep you where you're at. Sometimes they'll guilt trip you into don't change on us. Don't be too good for us. Don't forget about the little people, little comments like that. So you have to ask yourself, am I around the right people? And again, this goes back to what's the lesson here when you're coming from a loss or when you're going through a tough time? Am I around the right people? The third question that I ask myself is, am I staying true to myself, to the vision, and to my core values? Fantastic exercise that I recommend anyone do is just flat out ask yourself, okay, is this congruent to my vision? And just make it at a simple level. Ask yourself, okay, I am looking to lose 5 pounds in the next month. If I eat this thing, or if I consume this thing, or if I go out and I decide that I want to binge, just plain level, is this congruent to my vision and to the plan that I have written out? And the answer is no, then why am I doing it? So if you wanted to blow it up at scale, when you are maybe working on a project with your team and people start bringing different ideas and people kind of start brain dumping on you, just flat out stop everything, stop everyone, even yourself, because sometimes you'll be your own, biggest critic, and you constantly want to change something just to feel like you're doing something. And it sometimes just, okay, let's just hold the line. Is the ideas, or are the ideas that are being presented right now, the quote unquote opportunities, are they congruent and are they in line with where we're headed? And if the answer is no, then why are we even taking this thing on? And so you constantly have to remind yourself, am I staying true to myself? Am I staying true to my vision that I've set out? And is this aligned with the core values and principles that I believe in? Which is why money is so seductive, because it corrupts people's morality and it corrupts our core values of what we're willing to bend for and what we're willing to take a paycheck on, which is why certain industries that are taboo, certain industries that are maybe a bit more gray area, tend to excel. And the reason for that is because, again, we tend to submit our core values to maybe a new pleasure or a nice payday. So moving on to the fourth and final question is this a temporary detour or a full-blown course reroute? It's the final question I like to ask myself. Okay, I just finished bouncing off of a loss. So is this a small detour, meaning we're still headed in the same direction? Or is this a full-blown, not a full-blown course reroute, letting me know, okay, it's time to change things up? And obviously, you're not going to get that answer here on the podcast, because that's going to be up to you with all the information that you have laid out in front of you. But what I can say is that you want to weigh it out, because sometimes we tend to blow things up out of proportion where it's not that big of a deal. It's maybe we're just getting bad news on a tough day, and we just need to, okay, let's just weather this thing out. Like, we don't need to change anything. It's just like we're just getting our butts kicked today. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just wake up and you're like, man, this is going to be a tough day. Just rough. Like, you look at your schedule, you look at your calendar, and like, somebody gives you bad, some bad news, something happened. You're like, oh, you shut everything down. Like, it's over. No. You're like, it's just a detour. You're fine. And then there's other times where there are things that are constantly coming up. There's something broken in the system that needs to be fixed. Maybe we're not getting enough clients as fast as we used to. Okay, how long has this been happening? Okay, it's been happening over a quarter. Okay, yeah, maybe it's time to switch up how we're putting out content. Maybe it's time to switch up our messaging to our audience. Maybe it's time to switch up our ads. Maybe our ads getting a little fatigued. Things like that you do want to pay attention to. But more often than not, when you really start looking at it, we try to jump the gun a little bit too much. When I say we, I'm really just speaking to myself, right? We try to jump the gun and we try to make tweaks and we try to alternate things just to feel like we're doing something. And so those are my the 4-question framework that I kind of run through whenever I am going through a tough time or whenever I just came off of an L. Because again, we all go through L's. Some people just admit it and others are too high and mighty to admit that they are. I'm not that guy. I'll tell you, I go through L's every single day. It's about how you bounce back. So if you found value in this content, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. The only ask that we have for you is that you share it with someone and you leave us a review if you found value in this piece or any of our other pieces of content. Again, super appreciative of each and every single one of you, because without you guys sharing it, commenting, and just leaving us reviews, our audience wouldn't grow the way that it has been over the last couple of months. So again, super thankful for each and every single one of you. But until next time, everyone, appreciate you all. I will see you in the next episode.